Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Brandon from TopDenGamer.com, and I just wanted to make a quick video because my video on the best FPS gaming mouse has been getting a lot of comments, and so I just wanted to respond and answer all the questions you have about like optical versus laser sensors, budget mice, and about things like acceleration and prediction. Okay, before I get into my gaming mice picks, I first wanted to talk about acceleration and prediction. Now, and if you are an MMORPG gamer, a MOBA, some MOBA gamers, and most ARPG gamers, and accuracy isn't something that's number one on your most important list, then what I'm going to say is probably not that important to you. Go find something that's comfortable and use it, and if it's lightweight and it feels good in your hands, that's what I'd suggest for you. Now, as far as like an FPS gamer or something like that, even RTS gamers, where precision is actually going to matter, prediction and acceleration come into play. Now, what is prediction? Prediction is also called angle snapping, and it's usually built into a software, so you can actually turn this off in most cases for most gaming mice. But what it does is, let's say you're going in an almost horizontal or an almost vertical line, it's going to correct you and put it exactly horizontal and exactly vertical. Now, that's a huge problem when it comes to trying to get a headshot, right? Because you're trying to get to an exact location and the mouse is modifying what you're trying to do, something that you don't know, that you definitely don't want. Now, acceleration is an issue as well, and that depends on how fast you're moving the mouse. The mouse will begin to accelerate for you. Let's suppose that I've got somebody coming up behind me and I hear their footsteps. I'm going to turn around very quickly. And so I move my mouse 2 inches and it turns me 180 degrees, all right? Or maybe, let's say 190 degrees. But then when I do the same 2 inches later on, but not as quickly, it's not going to go the same distance. So when it comes to muscle memory and learning where your mouse is going to be after moving it so far, something like this can really be detrimental to your gameplay. Okay, now that we've talked about acceleration and prediction, now we can move on to the discussion of optical versus laser, and I just want to make this as easy as possible. Everybody says optical versus laser, but they're really both optical. The difference is it's optical LED and optical laser. So for the purposes of this, and to not confuse anyone, we'll just say optical versus laser. Now, laser sensor mice are a more modern thing. They can reach super high levels of DPI. They have accurate tracking. They do very well on surfaces like glass. Now, the big problem that most gamers run across with some of today's most popular sensors that you'll find on a lot of flagship models is that they have built-in acceleration. And as we talked about before, that's something that you definitely want to avoid if you need accuracy. Now, optical mice do not necessarily not have these kind of issues, but there are a lot of what I would call flawless sensors in optical mice. That's why you're seeing companies like Logitech with a lot of even their flagship models like the G502, G402, they're coming at us this year with optical sensor gaming mice rather than laser. Okay, so not all optical gaming mice are made equal. Not all laser gaming mice are made equal. So which ones should you guys go with? Well, I've used a lot of them over the year, so here is my choice for each genre. Okay, first let's talk about your gaming mice for MMORPGs. You know, there's a lot of people out there that just assume they have to have this huge gaming mouse with a ton of buttons that has a very high profile. You know what? I find these kind of gaming mice extremely uncomfortable, but I know that a lot of people like to have them right there on the side. I prefer to use a keyboard or a keypad. Just wanted to say that you don't have to necessarily feel like you have to use one of these gaming mice, especially if you cross platforms, like, you know, you like to play MMORPGs, but you also like to go into the FPS genre. In that case, I would just use, you know, your G keys or your programmable keys to do your macros instead. So for MMORPGs though, if you want a button grid, I really like the G600. It really seems like the most comfortable thing out there. For, you know, your MOBA or ARPG gamers, get away from that. You know, if you only need like a 6-button configuration, go with something like the Razer Naga Hex. That's just a little bit smaller profile, a little bit more comfortable, and will be easier to use over long durations and extended periods of time. For FPS gamers, there's a few gaming mice that really work and really do a good job. If you kind of game on the heavier side and you want something about 120 grams to start, I really like the Logitech G502. It has that MX518 feel of old. Really, in other words, it feels really good in your hands. That's going to be a little bit heavy for some people. If it's too heavy for you, go with the Razer Death Adder. It's still a very solid choice. A lot of people knock Razer, but this one wins hands down in every poll I've had. Even in my most recent FPS gaming mouse poll, when I pushed a little bit for the G502, people still voted for that Razer Death Adder, so I can't knock that. More ambidextrous option, you can go for the Zoe FK2. That's a really solid mouse as well. There's also a lot of other options out there. A lot of mice that have faultless sensors. You're going to want to go with something that's comfortable for you. If you have a claw or fingertip grip, you might want something different than what I'm recommending here. You can also check out in the description below all those mice to find something that fits your profile. Okay, for the RTS gamers out there, this really depends on the type of RTS game you're playing. If you feel like you need that accuracy and you want an optical mouse, just go with something like the G502 or Death Adder. That should serve you very well. Or if you feel like you need built-in acceleration, which some people actually prefer in RTS games, then you could try something like the Corsair M95, which has kind of a unique button thumb layout, or you could just go with something like the Naga Hex that we mentioned before. Last but certainly not least are your MOBA, League of Legends, DOTA2, and other MOBA type players. Really, you want something pretty similar to the ARPG players and maybe the Razer Naga Hex. You have your 6-button configuration, or you can just use like a really accurate mouse like the Death Adder or the G502. Now I just want to briefly talk about a subject that I've been getting a lot of questions about, and that is on like budget gaming mice. I thought about making my own video for this, and I might, but you know what? There are more manufacturers and more options than ever when it comes to the gaming mouse market, and I think that's because it's more easy to manufacture them in China than ever before. Now, when I say in China, I believe that pretty much all mice are manufactured in China, but there's a difference in factory quality. There's a lot of gaming mice in the budget arena in the like under $30 space that are all pretty similar when it comes to their profiles and their materials and things like that. Case in point, here's 3 that I have. I have another like 20 in the box over there. I get about every other week I get an email from some manufacturer that I've never heard of asking me to review a gaming mouse. Now, whether you think these are knockoffs or they're just really good quality for what they are, I don't know. Time will tell what kind of category we need to put these in. But as you can see, they all kind of have the same profile. This one looks a lot like the G600, has your thumb grid. So they really cover all bases. This one has a metal backplate, but as you can see on the back, they really all pretty much have the same weight tuning, the same braided cable. They're really good quality. They feel heavy, they feel sturdy. Most of these are made with Omron switches and Avago sensors, although Avago is now Pixart, so I'm sure some of these will transition over to that. That would actually be a good thing. And most of them have LED lighting that you can customize. So is there really any issue in owning these? The answer to that is no. I mean, if you're an MMORPG gamer and you can find something like the Redragon Perdition, that's what I would recommend as an alternative to the G600 for around $30 to $35, then go ahead and get it. If the G600 isn't already on sale. Now, I was able to find the G600 for 40 bucks. If you're asking me whether I'd rather go with the G600 for 40 or the Redragon Perdition for 35, I'd still probably go with the name that I trust just a little bit more and the software that I trust just a little bit more. Okay, that's all for my recommendations, and sometimes you have to take them with a little bit of a grain of salt because you want something that most importantly is comfortable. If you get something with too high of a profile or something that doesn't fit your grip, sometimes it can hurt after a while. You want something that's ergonomic, that really won't cause you trouble down the line in terms of wrist pain and things like that. So keep in mind that overall, and in fact, 2 gaming mice that I love to use for FPS games because one of my favorite genres is the FPS genre are the G500 and the G9X, both of which are no longer made, both of which were laser mice. But you know what? I used them for a long time and I didn't notice a lot of difference when I switched from a mouse like that to the Razer Death Adder in recent years. So Again, take it all with a grain of salt and find something that's comfortable for you. If you're a competitive gamer, if you need super accuracy, then obviously something that is optical with a flawless sensor is important, but you still want to find something that's comfortable and that you can use for a long period of time. Go to the description below. I'll have a bunch of links to people who have talked about, who have lists of flawless sensor mice, and you guys can go check that out. You can also go check out my recommendations on top10gamer.com, which I'll put right here. Anyway, hopefully you guys like this video. If you do, you can help me out a ton, and you can help this video have more exposure by pressing that like and subscribe button. We got a ton of cool things coming up for you from the channel. You can also ask me any question in the description below, or join our community at facebook.com/top10gamer. Hope you guys are going to have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.